Good morning. It is the 1st of August. A very big continuation down move, which we'll go through following the FOMC failure to lower interest rates. However, that is on the table for September. Also, quite over the evening hours, there was definitely a huge fear as like renewed hostilities in the Middle East were popping up. A lot of fear happening in the market. In any case, we'll go through everything. So the big move continuation down, obviously, the moment we started failing below the 65.7, those kind of local lows that would create a higher low, got us a little bit of a TP into that upside zone before we had a continuation failure on the 4 hour for that kind of massive move down into the local liquidity. We'll go through also that the fact that we've closed now on the 4 hour underneath previous structure, it starts to look very bearish on the higher time frame. However, this is where we would expect some type of a bounce failure, basically a retest failure to basically say, nope, we don't have any demand to bring us back above certain levels for a continuation to the downside. That being said, any closes below 63.7, we are targeting much lower break of high time frame structure and that type of like continuation of the downside. So there is quite a bit of liquidity here right below us. On the lower time frames, it is still building quite a bit. So any kind of failures that break those lows, instant continuation failure to the downside. If we do start regaining stuff like 65K, we start to put some of these orders out of position, some of these shorts that were entered as we started failing. And then we can start targeting 67K and potentially higher, at least for a failure bounce into the localized upside liquidity. Just a glance at the RSI stuff for altcoins. Yeah, render's looking pretty oversold. A lot of these ones are getting quite oversold comparatively. Most alts are getting punished after that downside move. And looking at the liquidity and liquidations in the local structure, obviously there's quite a bit of short stacking above us, and we start breaking into that if we get into 64.5K. We're in a bit of a localized dead zone for liquidations. However, optimistically, if we start moving up through 64.5, getting to 65K, we can start talking about the big stuff, which is up here at 66.8 and 67K. So that being said, any localized failures, any closes really under 64K, 63.7, we start to then continue that target for the higher time frame downside. But optimistically, looking for that bounce here, this is the last area for a bounce overall. Looking at trading light, we'll talk on the order flow here first. So massive continuations all to the downside as we had big failures that closed below previous levels. As soon as we break down and close below 1 hour, 4 hour, you guys know the drill. It's continuation to the downside. That being said, the volume delta is pretty oversold in this area. Quite a bit of Bitcoin entered. The red number above seeing like how unbalanced it is. So we're seeing 1.3, 5.1K of shorts. And if you look here, all of these shorts are actually out of position here currently. So you're looking for that kind of lower time frame, higher low. If we go down a time frame and then look at the heat map as well, this is just showing resting orders. The low was held pretty hard. A lot of people stepping in to try to hold this stuff. And locally, we're seeing a big block of several thousand, 500, several thousand Bitcoin holding 64K. So this is actually looking, optimistic to see the last little bounce area. Also, open interest starting to come in very, very heavily, obviously, because massive amounts of shorts that are being entered here. And then now that's continuing with even more longs entered to kind of push this higher low. So cautiously optimistic here for that bounce to, from yesterday, we got at least a 1K move up before continuation failure. This low is the last bounce level we have until we break high time frame upside trend. So riding out this potential move up, at least for a retest failure higher, because higher time frame, we are still looking for a higher time frame failure to come back down and kind of break structure. So looking over from that to trading view, general plan here. We talked about it yesterday. Any closes that start failing below stuff, we got it a bit lower time frame, but that continuation down. We've got some local levels holding us at 64.6. That's the current monthly open, daily open. That gain there is going to be quite significant because it starts breaking us into that short liquidity. If we lose 63.7K, we are going to 61K and lower. That's just the expectation. The amount of long liquidity here, is very, 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 very significant. That could easily break us down to retest structure at 61.3 all the way down to 60K, with higher time frame targets potentially getting us back to CME gap fills. Massive CME gap is still in place all the way down at these lows. Technically, we are still looking at high time frame upside trend. However, it is important to note that 4-hour close. So if we just go up a time frame, zoom in a little bit again, this close here was bad. Why? Because it closed below previous 4-hour levels. What does that mean for us? Well, any bounce that we do now, we're looking for retest failures. Just because you're breaking the upside trend. That is a lower low close. So if we now fail to achieve back above really significant levels, I would probably argue even establishing price action back above the weekly open at 68.2K. Unless this is achieved and like we can actually reestablish support at these levels, we have high time frame downtrend potential. So every level is a potential short for continuation to the downside. You break that low, you have that continuation down as you flush all the long liquidity that's been building up since mid-July. Yeah, this is the last place to bounce. And I think that's about it. Just if anything, play the levels here. Watch those continuation downside moves if there's some localized failure. If we do start regaining stuff above like 64 or 5, like regaining that local level, that's a potential trigger for me to just take a continuation scalp. I've got a bit of a long here, just, optimistically thinking this is the last place to bounce. Net short, as obviously we've broken trend and we were doing it back on Monday. But the big thing here is the continuation is likely on any new lows, especially if we get, a bounce failure or if we get a higher bounce failure, which is still the most likely scenario. So that's that. Take it easy. Catch you tomorrow.